One man didn't just get rich from oil, he rewrote the rules of American capitalism. In the chaos of the Gilded Age, John D. Rockefeller built Standard Oil into a machine of ruthless efficiency and quiet control, crushing competitors and dictating prices across an entire industry. But this wasn't just about business, it was about power. How did one company come to dominate nearly all of America's oil? And what did it cost the country to let it happen? John D. Rockefeller built Standard Oil by focusing on efficiency and cost control in oil refining before expanding his dominance. In the years following the Civil War, the American oil industry was chaotic, with hundreds of small refiners competing in a volatile market driven by kerosene demand. Rockefeller recognized early that the real opportunity wasn't drilling for oil, but refining it more efficiently than anyone else. Through his company, founded in Cleveland in 1870, he implemented strict cost discipline, negotiated lower prices for materials, and reinvested profits into better equipment. He minimized waste by finding uses for byproducts that others threw away, turning what competitors saw as trash into additional revenue streams. This relentless efficiency allowed Standard Oil to undercut competitors on price while still making a profit, forcing weaker refiners out of business or compelling them to sell. Rockefeller's approach wasn't flashy, it was methodical and calculated, but it laid the foundation for a company that could outlast and outmaneuver nearly everyone else in the industry. By mastering the economics of refining, he positioned Standard Oil as the backbone of America's growing energy market, setting the stage for further consolidation and control. Rockefeller used horizontal integration to absorb or eliminate competitors and consolidate the oil refining industry. Rather than competing endlessly with dozens of rival refiners, Rockefeller pursued a strategy of buying them out, merging operations, or driving them into bankruptcy through price pressure. This process, known as horizontal integration, allowed Standard Oil to steadily take control of refining capacity across the United States. In cities like Cleveland, Rockefeller systematically acquired competing firms, often offering owners stock in Standard Oil in exchange for their businesses, which made them partners rather than enemies. Those who refused faced aggressive tactics, including temporary price cuts that smaller firms could not survive. By the late 1870s, Standard Oil controlled the vast majority of refining in key regions, giving Rockefeller immense leverage over production and pricing. This consolidation reduced competition but also brought a level of stability to an industry that had previously been chaotic and unpredictable. Critics would later argue that this power stifled innovation and fairness, but at the time, Rockefeller saw it as creating order and efficiency in a fragmented market. Horizontal integration became one of the defining strategies of America's Gilded Age industrial giants. Standard Oil secured secret railroad rebates and transportation deals that gave it a decisive advantage over competitors. In the 19th century, railroads were the lifeline of the oil industry, transporting crude and refined products across vast distances. Rockefeller understood that controlling transportation costs was just as important as refining efficiency. He negotiated confidential agreements with major railroad companies like the Pennsylvania Railroad, securing lower shipping rates for Standard Oil, while competitors paid higher prices. Even more controversially, these deals often included drawbacks, where railroads paid Standard Oil a portion of the fees collected from its rivals. This meant that Rockefeller profited not only from his own shipments, but also from those of his competitors. These arrangements dramatically lowered Standard Oil's operating costs and made it nearly impossible for smaller refiners to compete on equal footing. The exposure of these practices in the 1870s sparked public outrage and contributed to growing distrust of big business. However, by the time these deals were widely known, Standard Oil had already cemented its dominance. Control over transportation became a powerful tool in Rockefeller's strategy, allowing him to squeeze competitors while strengthening his grip on the industry. Rockefeller expanded Standard Oil vertically by controlling every stage of production, distribution, and sales. Once he had consolidated refining, Rockefeller moved to secure control over the entire supply chain, a strategy known as vertical integration. Standard Oil invested in pipelines, storage facilities, tanker cars, and even retail distribution networks, reducing dependence on outside companies. By owning pipelines, Rockefeller bypassed railroads and cut transportation costs even further, while ensuring reliable delivery of oil. He also established networks for distributing kerosene both domestically and internationally, giving Standard Oil direct access to consumers. This level of control allowed the company to manage prices, maintain consistent quality, and respond quickly to market changes. It also created high barriers to entry, making it extremely difficult for new competitors to emerge. Vertical integration transformed Standard Oil from a refining company into a comprehensive energy empire. This strategy not only increased profits but also reinforced Rockefeller's dominance, as every link in the chain from oil fields to the end user was increasingly under his control. It was a blueprint that would later be used by other industrial giants seeking to dominate their industries. The creation of the Standard Oil Trust allowed Rockefeller to centralize control over dozens of companies and solidify his monopoly. By the 1880s, Standard Oil had grown into a sprawling network of companies operating across multiple states, each subject to different legal regulations. To manage this complexity and maintain unified control, Rockefeller and his associates created the Standard Oil Trust in 1882. Under this arrangement, shareholders of various Standard Oil companies transferred their shares to a group of trustees in exchange for trust certificates, effectively placing control of all operations in the hands of a small central leadership. This structure allowed Rockefeller to coordinate strategy, fix prices, and manage production across the entire enterprise as if it were a single company, even though it technically consisted of many separate entities. The trust became a model for other large corporations seeking to bypass state laws and consolidate power. However, it also drew increasing scrutiny from the public and government, contributing to the rise of antitrust movements. The immense power of the Standard Oil Trust ultimately led to legal action, culminating in the Supreme Court's 1911 decision to break up the company. Even so, the trust had already demonstrated how centralized control could create one of the most powerful monopolies in American history.